Also, I'd like to point out by the emojis by your name here, it looks like you're more of a political activist than anything. Clearly, unfortunately, you think Ukraine comes before the United States. I'm not sure what the black flex is. I mean, is that digital blackface? But congratulations on graduating from school. But I'd like to
No, it is about honoring Black
Ms. Weingarten, I reclaim my time. I didn't ask you a question.
Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to go ahead and handle an impact on COVID-19 on schools hearing by focusing on some tweets. It's ridiculous, her bringing up this social media beef. And at the beginning of that clip, she was talking about, I saw that you liked a post about me being suspended from Twitter. It was just, it was really pathetic, but also it was very Marjorie Taylor Greene. And of course, Greene couldn't just leave it there in terms of her questioning of the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten. No, Greene had to go a little bit further and a lot lower.
Are you a mother?
I am a mother by marriage.
By marriage, I see.
And my wife is here with me, so I'm really glad that she's here. Rabbi Sharon Klein.
Ms. Weingarten, I reclaim my time. I didn't ask you a question.
Sorry.
What I'd like to talk about is your recommendations to the CDC as not a medical doctor, not a biological mother, and really not a teacher either. You had no business advising the CDC what the medical guidelines were for school closures, because now we have a nation of school children who have suffered because of it. The problem is people like you need to admit that you're just a political activist, not a teacher, not a mother, and not a medical doctor.
Wow, that was really special. The attacks, really, you know what? I kind of like to think that Weingarten got in her position as the president of the American Federation of Teachers because she had some sense of knowledge about how teaching, education, schooling works. But you know what do I know? I'm sure MTG has all of the intel. I definitely know that she did not necessarily know when to stop with the rhetoric and the attacks on Weingarten because she decided to then go after the woman's parental status.
I just want to make note that the decorum of the attacks on the witness were unacceptable that the gentlelady from Georgia just did. And so it'd be nice if we didn't attack the witnesses, particularly when making a decision about whether or not she's a mother. You are a mother. Thank you for being a great parent. Thank you.
Yeah, that was Representative Robert Garcia of California, who had to defend Weingarten after MTG unleashed an absolutely insane attack on her. But one thing that definitely launched into defense was Representative Maxwell Frost. Yeah, that's right, from Florida. He put it bluntly, calling out this clown show for what it is.
In today's hearing, Republicans on this committee are attempting to paint the American Federation of Teachers as a destructive special interest group out to harm students. They are not. This is personal for me. My mother's been a public school educator for 37 years, teaching special education. She actually retires this year. And this is rich, it's ironic, and it has no one fooled. This is to distract from the real special interest group that is the real threat to children all across this country, the NRA.
Yeah, thankfully, Maxwell Frost was there to really just say what the score is, because our teachers have been under attack considerably over the last few years, particularly with the pandemic, and yet they have been the heroes, the ones showing up, doing the work, and continuing to be a part of leading our next generation, even though they have been under attack and undermined. And speaking of under attacked and undermined, even though we weren't able to show you the clip earlier where Marjorie Taylor Greene essentially attacks Weingarten, saying that she's not a real mother because she is a stepmother. Well, I could tell you that Frost wasn't a fan of it at all. And if we could put up his tweet here, we know he went to Twitter and he said, "My mom and dad adopted me at birth and they are my parents. F you and your bigoted questions, Marjorie Taylor Greene." Yeah, that's right. He stood up, he sounded off, both in the hearing and outside of it. And it was powerful and impactful. But the question is, will it even resonate with Greene and the Republicans, Dan?
Not unlikely, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is There's so many thoughts out of that. I'm gonna try to keep them as compact as possible. I loved how she was throwing out all these. It looks like you're just a political activist. It looks like you're just X, Y, and Z. You don't have much experience. I've known of Randi Weingarten's name in the educational space since when I was a political nerd in the 2000s, way before Marjorie Taylor Greene was involved in politics, and way back when she was involved in CrossFit and apparently adultery and cheating. But like, she has nothing to understand from that. She has nothing to understand from motherhood and how there are many people who are mothers, many cisgender women who are mothers who cannot give birth, but they adopt, or there are other people who they just take on as family. That is equally as valid, that is just as valid, and gives you plenty to stand on and talk about, and experience to talk about, that Marjorie Taylor Greene also lacks. But your third point about, will it matter to the Republican Party? No, because this is a party that doesn't like policies unless it's to aggravate people that they feel are getting too much in society because they watch TV, not understanding that these are cultures that are marginalized, and the few times they appear on TV are statements to that effect of marginalization, and that TV isn't everything. But also that this is just red meat for them. They don't love anything else but getting to feel like, you're sticking it to the person with COVID vaccines. You're calling them performative or whatever. They're just looking for that soundbite. And so I appreciate Maxwell Frost is like a really good upcoming front runner in the at least the young blood in the House right now. And also Robert Garcia, who I've had looked under a microscope for the past couple of years because he's my former mayor. So I'm really glad to see both of them showing up in the space, and they'll definitely be Democrats to watch for taking this strong stance here, because not a lot of people have to do it. You saw that room, it was really empty. So I'm glad they were there.
Yeah, I'm glad they were there as well, because these things that Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing, hijacking the mic, the conversation, holding these hearings that are absolutely nonsensical and a waste of taxpayers' time, it's something that needs to be called out for the record books. It needs to be shut down. There needs to be some documentation of the fact that Democrats didn't sit still. They didn't sit quiet. They didn't just allow the Republicans to do the US people dirty, because that's exactly what's going on here, especially having these hearings and conversations about COVID-19, rehashing these issues when really we need to talk about things that are more impactful moving forward, which may include protecting children with health and safety of the COVID-19 virus that has not suddenly just miraculously disappeared. We're talking about assault weapons and the fact that the school shootings continue to persist, and yet nothing is done. And yet again, Republicans, even then, they will sit and waste everyone's time. But I am very, very grateful that the Dems were in the room to speak truth to power.